Thank you, Carla. Thank you for having us. Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, Salam, Shalom, good evening, greetings, welcome. We are going to have a conversation. And with this conversation, we talked a little bit about my past, who I was, what happened on August 5th, 2012, and to who I am today. Today, I'd be remiss if I did not remember and celebrate. Today is Nanak's birthday, 550-year celebration. Happy Gurpurb to my Sikh family, to you all. Nanak was the founder of Sikhism. When he was born in India, there at that time existed a society, culture, politics of division, and he called us all to really embrace the light of divinity which resides in us all. His first tenet, the first tenet of the Guru Granth, the main foundation of it is Ekunkar, which is oneness. And when I think about my journey in this country, and I think about all of our journeys, we think about as a child when we're born, we're in this state where we think that the world is happening to us because we don't have a lot of agency. We want to say things, we want to do things, but oftentimes people are telling us, you're just a child. Stay in a child's place. A child is, and the old saying used to be, a child is to be seen, not heard. I don't know if they say that anymore, but that was what us good old folks used to say. But with that existence, you feel like the world is really happening to you. I think what Nanak was really trying to embrace was listen, no matter who you are, what color you are, class you are, creed you are, socioeconomic condition you are, fighting a lot of, at that time, division, superstitions, and just injustices that existed within that society. He said, embrace that part of you that knows that you are powerful. Embrace that divine light that resides within us all. And our challenge really in life, and this is when I'm speaking to religious leaders or clergy, our challenge is to give people a more mature sense of their faith. And what I mean by that is sometimes we get away from our faith because it doesn't serve the need that it once did. Right? I'm a licensed clinician. I choose, and this is, I'm not saying it's bad, but when somebody is given a prescription, oftentimes when somebody is given a prescription, and there is a lot of efficacy saying if you take a prescription and you are involved in psychotherapy, right, the combination of those two can help you get to a better place. But sometimes when I think about what we do and how we don't give people a more mature sense of their faith, I think about how we're just sometimes given a prescription. And this prescription looks like, oh, you're feeling this way, so I'll give you this pill. And what happens to a prescription is, oftentimes, if you're only doing that, you have to keep raising the milligrams. And it's a trial, and oftentimes, when we're young, we are told and said, and we ask the clergy, or we ask the priest, or the imam, or the granthi, or whomever is in that religious place at the time, we ask them, why does it say this? And they sometimes treat us like a child, and they say, because it does. And often when we would ask our parents, why did you do this? They'll say, because I told you so. Or, why is that? Because I told you so. That only serves somebody's purpose for so long. Once we get to a more mature sense of our faith, and whatever that faith is, if it's a faith in oneness, if it's a spiritual faith, if it's a non-denominational faith, if it's a Christian, Muslim, Sikh, Buddhist, Baha'i, what have you, it should get us to a place where we open ourselves up rather than close ourselves off. So if you have something that is saying, okay, I believe in this, and subconsciously, oftentimes we're not consciously closed off. we are subconsciously closed off, right? The bigger threat sometimes is not the overt racism. It's the stuff that is kind of back here that somebody's not really saying. A research study showed that a lot of, and with African American women and thinking about infant mortality rates of those down south and up north, a recent research study showed that the overt racism down south was actually healthier than the subconscious, sort of subliminal, sometimes, progressive, as we say, liberal prejudice and racism in the north. Because oftentimes the enemy that you kind of know, that you're like, okay, this is my enemy. This person is telling me they don't like me. And I don't have to guess. And when you don't have to guess, your mind doesn't have time to play tricks with you. You just kind of know. So sometimes that stuff right there, the stuff that keeps you guessing, is the stuff that is very toxic. Coming back to the point of developing a more mature sense of our faiths. When we think about a healthy faith, it is much less prescriptive and much more participatory, meaning you participate in it, right? When we think about healthy clinician and therapy, we think about those that get better, genuinely get better, are the ones who participate more in it. And so it's not sense of like, I'm telling you to believe this because this is our culture and this is our religion and we want you to believe this going forward. Anything worth believing is worth challenging. This is what Nanak taught. Challenge it. Don't just blindly believe it. Participate in it. And your participation sometimes, and I hope that no one in here tonight goes through anything, and this is a very extreme example of hate. Right? And we were talking a little bit about just how hate looks like on a day-to-day basis. So giving you permission to say whatever it is in your life, some of the best compliment that sometimes we get is, Pardeep, I forgot about your story and I resonated with my own story. That's cool. That's awesome. Go there. Go there. Sometimes the best compliment is, hey, Pardeep, I'm going through a nasty divorce right now. I completely forgot about what you were talking about, and I resonated with my own divorce. Cool. Go there. We have enough time to say, the responsibility of it is to say, if I open you up, we will try to close you off. So today we do have a plan where it's not going to be just me talking or talking at you. We're going to talk with one another. And if you're processing through something, a recent rejection, a recent heartache, like I said, I don't wish anybody ill in this room. I wish my children to be successful and be happy and to be joyous. I know that sometimes they're going to go through some kind of difficulty. We call it dukh. Some people call it suffering. Somebody calls it something else. I also know that is the time that somebody grows. I can't cheat you of your own journey. And it might not look like mine. So you might ask me and say, Pardeep, what does forgiveness look like? Because prescriptively, it looked like this, and this is what somebody did because of that circumstance. I have worked with sexual assault survivors. I have worked with people across the United States, from East Coast to West Coast, North to South, mass shooting after mass shooting, from religious place to another religious place. I can't answer that for you. You're going to have to participate in that yourself. What does your own journey look like? And you might be like, man, why did we pay this fool to come up here and he doesn't even know the answer to forgiveness. He doesn't even know what that's about. If anybody tells you, this is my journey and this is what you're going to do, they're lying to you. They're cheating you of the experience. They're providing you with an explanation. And oftentimes when we explain, we intellectualize. And so some people their coping mechanism is actually to explain. They think that if they know enough about something, that they can somehow, some way get to a better place. That's not true. That's, again, is prescriptive. We don't heal unless we feel. And oftentimes you don't heal unless you reveal. And you put it out for the world and say, hi, here it is. Here's my dukkha, here's my suffering, here's whatever that journey is. This is what it looks like. Some of the biggest fears that we have is to be rejected. Rejected. And Brene Brown, I'll take this from Brene Brown, but I'll credit her. Some people handle rejection well. Some people handle it horribly, depending on what type of personality you are. There's certain biological factors that exist in this, and there's certain environmental. We use something called the stress diathesis model, meaning that when we look at somebody, we don't look at them as just environmental and this is what happened. We look at them as both. This is their personality type. This is how they handle rejection. They handle it well, they don't handle it well. Right? A person that handles rejection well is a person that understands guilt and understands it as guilt rather than shame. The difference between guilt and shame is guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am wrong. And there's certain people, their entire life, they don't even know it, but they're running from a sense of being wrong. They never were wrong, but they themselves feel that way. So oftentimes what do? You try to intellectualize yourself. I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a PhD or a master's, and when I'm successful, I'll have put that shame behind me. I will go and I'll make a lot of money. And when I make a lot of money, is this the cameras? I was supposed to be sitting down, wasn't I? Is that one good? Yeah, you're good. Okay. I'm like, it's not getting the right. So I'm like, look, okay. So that, a shame and guilt. And so oftentimes when we're working with somebody, I want to measure the next, and I say, okay, we know that ideology plays a role in these shootings. Oftentimes we're coming out and saying, this person was a white supremacist, this person was this way or that way, this person was a foreign terrorist, this person was a gangbanger, this person was whatever. All those things matter, but they don't matter as much as how did that person handle rejection. Oftentimes, before somebody does something very drastic, they have to feel rejected. And in this country, right now, in the Western world, a lot of boys who grow up to be men cannot handle rejection well. Some can. Some are fine with it. But there are some who cannot. And the more that we start to reject other people in this society, the more dangerous we make it. When a person has no strands of humanity and they're all being cut off, once they get to that last one, then look out. So what we have to try to do is try to create strands of humanity to connect people. This is what Nanak was trying to do. He was going and reaching out to the poor, the people who felt down and out and rejected by society, and saying, no, you were never alone. One of the things I told my daughter the other day, and now they're getting a little bit, when you come as a first generation, second generation, third generation, you know how you start to lose a little bit of who you were and the identity of Sikhi. But I wanted her to know what is like real. And she was having some trouble. She's 14 now. She's having some trouble with some friends at school. And I told her, I said, listen, there's going to be times when you feel hurt and you feel rejected and you feel alone. But you're never alone. You're never really by yourself. You feel alone. Right? But right now, consciously, if you meditate on it, there's something else that's always been with you. Since the source, the divine, whatever we want to call God, breathed life into your lungs, you were never alone. But what pain does and suffering does, it makes you feel like that. And so what we gotta do is we gotta make that journey. And that journey is us coming back to that noble truth. We are not alone. The divine source resides in every single one of you. You might have felt at one point like you were a mistake, but you never were a mistake. My wife and us, we have 4 beautiful children. And I tell them all the time, I said, you know, I will love you, I will nurture you, I will not always be here. There's an impermanence in life that exists, and which is true. Also, you don't belong to me and your mom. We didn't sit up all night thinking about how to make your hair and your eyes and your personality, and no parent has. Right? So sometimes we got to understand what we come from and how special and unique we all are. All of that said, on August 5th, 2012, when a white supremacist gunman walked into the Sikh temple of Wisconsin in Oak Creek, it made us question how important we were to this country. By that time, I came to this country when I was 6 years old, 1982. When I came here, there were maybe 5 families who were Sikh. And when I say Sikh, I mean like the religion of Sikhi. And there's 5 families. When we had a Gurdwara in people's houses. So people's houses would travel around. Somebody would host one week. So we had a traveling, what we call a holy book. The holy book is the Guru Granth. And we would do ardas in different people's houses. Slowly, the population started to increase. And as it started to increase, we found our Gurdwara, which is our temple, on the north side of Milwaukee. At that time, I still felt like that little child that felt like the world was happening to him. But I also was very appreciative. I was appreciative to the point that, you know, my parents would oftentimes ask me, they're like, Pardeep, what do you want to do when you grow up? And this is, for Indian parents, I don't know about how it is for American parents, but for Indian parents, maybe Muslim parents, Hindu parents, Sikh parents, you ask your child from the time that they're born, what do you want to be when you grow up? And secretly, you hope that they say doctor or lawyer or engineer or something. I would tell my mom, and I swear to God this is true, right? Because people are like, that wasn't really true. I swear this is true. I used to tell my parents owned gas stations. And when they owned gas stations, they were like, oh, we want you to grow up and become a doctor or lawyer, and then you can take care of us, and da-da-da. And they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, oh, Mom, Dad, I want to be of service. And they're like, what? And of service. And oftentimes they would look at it, and I would see it, like their face was like perplexed, because they're like, we worked this hard for you to be of service. And I don't think that they kind of knew, but there was something that was happening. And secretly, I think my dad was very proud, because he was a very religious person. He was a teacher. He was president of the Gurdwara for 15 years. For those that know Indian politics and Sikh politics, you cannot be a president of any Sikh temple of anywhere for 15 years if you don't get along with people well, and if you're not there for serving. And so he's always instilled that in me. And as I grew up, I thought that the way that I graduated from Marquette University with my undergrad, and I thought that I was going to be of service by being a police officer. So I became a police officer right after I graduated, and I got assigned to one of the roughest neighborhoods in all of the United States, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have a documentary that you guys can all go ahead and watch. It's called 53206. It has the highest rate of black incarcerated males per capita, right? So I was assigned to 53206 right out of the academy. And my entire policing career was me just running and gunning. Dope arrests, gun arrests, violent crime arrests. I did not write one moving violation. I wrote a few moving, no parking citations, none of the small stuff. Right? And I say small stuff, I don't mean to say that it's not needed. It was just something that we could not do. Because if I said I'm going out for what we called hitches at the time, I'm going out for an assignment, the dispatcher would say, what are you going out for? And if I say I'm going out for, a speeding vehicle, nope, you got another assignment to go to. You can't take that. So oftentimes we were just kind of running to the next assignment. Boom, 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 boom. I did that for about 5 years. And I'll tell you when I knew that it was too much for me, and I have a deep respect for police officers. I have a lot of friends who are still cops. It's a very tough job. I also get that there's a lot of injustices that do exist. And I get that there's a lot of history that exists that needs to be rectified. So I can exist in the complication of understanding it's a tough job and there's a lot of injustices. Okay? My wife would oftentimes ask me, she would say, so how was work? And we were newlyweds at this time. How was work? And I let her say it a couple times, but then after a while, I'm like, if you ask me how work was again, we're not going to be talking again. And she's like, why? What's the matter? I said, it's enough that I have to go out there and see what I see and have the knowledge of why it exists. I wasn't a dummy. I knew why 53206 was 53206. I understood the history of Milwaukee. Right? We're called the Selma of the North for a reason. Historically, mass incarceration was not something that just one president said, okay, I'm going to have a war on drugs. Before Reagan or anybody came along and said, we're going to have a war on drugs, there was, right, we're going to build an infrastructure. And this infrastructure was really built over time with presidents saying, okay, we're going to allocate these resources there, we're going to allocate those resources there. Here's what policy looks like. Here's what people can live. And if they can live there, we can patrol this area that way. So mass incarceration, right now, the United States doesn't have a majority of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's prison population. 1/4 of the prison population. And I think we only have 2 or 3% of the world's population. So we're incarcerating, and we're incarcerating people of color. Right? We're incarcerating people, and I knew that at the time. And so she would ask me these questions. When we, and this is for all of you guys, when we go out into the world, we wear our armor. We all do. Sometimes we buy some clothes and we're like, okay, I look good in this, I feel good in this, I wear that armor. My armor as a police officer was my bat belt, my bulletproof, my shield, and actually psyche was I want to get ready for work. The hard thing about when you put on all of that is that it doesn't come off so easy. We absorb the world that we exist in. We become the soup that we marinate in. Right? We all do. And sometimes we might think that we're not doing because we're so conscious, we're so woke, we're so this, we're so that. You become it. And oftentimes we're really good at looking out of windows, but we suck at looking in the mirror. That's uncomfortable. So I had to take at least a small glimpse in the mirror and say, Pardeep, is this making you happy? Do you see yourself doing this for 20 more years? And I said, nah, I don't see that for myself. So I became a teacher and I started working with at-risk high school youth in the same neighborhood that I was policing in. And I was doing that for 12 years. And my secret to teaching, for anybody that's going into teaching, it's a phenomenal field. Policing is a phenomenal field. Take care of yourself, right? We do need good police officers. We do need good teachers. We need good everybody. We need good ambassadors of love. But my secret to teaching was, and this was, so I'm teaching in one of the roughest neighborhoods again in Milwaukee. And I'm working with high school youth. And throughout my 12 years, I did not suspend one kid. Oftentimes people would have all kinds of behavior difficulties and this and that. I did not need to suspend one kid. One, and these kids by the state are labeled at risk because they're either behaviorally, academically, or both, right? And it wasn't anything that is special in me to say why I didn't suspend any of these kids. I didn't suspend them because I didn't need to. I had developed a relationship with them. And oftentimes I would go through a child's what we call portfolio or folder, and I would say, what did he get in trouble for last time? Where did he come from? What is his grandma's name? What is grandpa's name? Right? I would know enough that if I needed to, I could be like, yo, Charlie, your grandma said, you were gonna like behave today. And something would go off in that child, be like, man, this dude took long enough to like learn my name and my grandma's name, and he knew my story. Right? There's a part of all of us that yearns for connection. And when you know that about somebody that you're working with all the time, and I would be shocked at how many teachers did not even know the names of the kids that were in their classrooms. That first day, I'm like, I'm going to get to know each and every child. Because if I say young men or young women or boys and girls or anything like that, I know that they already have tuned out. If I don't call them by their name and pronounce their name right, they have already tuned out. When I was teaching with, and I think we'll go back to that service. I wanted to be of service. I wanted to do something worthwhile. But I also think I also did it with a sense of ego too. Because I thought in my mind, if I police, I can keep good people safe from bad people. If I teach, I can go help these youth, right? Sometimes it becomes less about them and more about you. And I had to recognize that in myself. When August 5th, 2012 happened, that morning, and on the way here, I'm kind of reflecting on it. When I go for long rides, and I'm coming from Milwaukee to Madison, it's not that long of a ride, but I'm kind of thinking about it. Today is Gurupurab, and we were really thinking about how do we all shine our light? How do we all collectively look at one another and say, yeah, you might be a different race. You might be a different gender. You might have a different religion, and you might be, whatever. The challenge, the spiritual challenge that we really have right now is not to see the divine in the ones that look like us, walk like us, talk like us, dress like us, believe like us. The spiritual challenge is to see it in the ones that don't. That's the subconscious challenge. Perceptually, if you looked at Gestalt psychology, you will say, people that look alike and look like one another, you see familiarity, thus you see family. Your spiritual challenge, our spiritual challenge, the one that we were given, why are we of different complexions and different races and different religions? Because we're being tested. Do you see it in the person that doesn't? Or is your divinity so weak that you can only see it in the ones that do? Right? Spiritually, we're being challenged. My spiritual challenge that day was, you obviously see it in your Sangat. The Sangat is our community, the community that's inside the Gurdwara. You obviously see it in the Sangat. Do you see it, Pardeep? You want to be of service to community. You want to be of service to the kids that you serve. God, plans are derailed all the time. I said, okay, now be of service to everyone. Be of service to everyone. But before you do that, you also need to go through your own personal process. Can you see the divine in the person that killed your father and 5 others. Can you do that? Now what does forgiveness look like? I can't tell you what it is. I can't prescribe it to you. I can tell you, there's a guy who's on death row, and the next day he's going to be executed. He goes up to the warden, and the warden says, hey, yeah, we're going to execute you tomorrow. You're going to die. He says, I'll give you one of 2 choices. I'll make you comfortable tonight. You can believe what you want to believe. You can exist in the existence that you have existed in for whatever years you've been alive. Some of you 19, 20, 21, 22, 40, 50. You can exist in that existence. I'll make you comfortable. You know what? You can get the food that you want to eat tonight. Right? And tomorrow you can be dead. Or you can take that door right there. The prisoner says, what's behind that door over there? The warden says, your worst fears. The things that you haven't wanted to take a look at. Oftentimes, sometimes for us, it's our reflection. It's what is looking back at us. It says, your worst fears, your anxieties. And the prisoner says, nah, you know what? I just rather be comfortable. And that's all of us. Sometimes we're just comfortable. And death comes. And it's fine. So he chooses comfort. The next day he's executed. The prison guard goes up to the warden and says, warden, what's behind that door over there? And the warden says, freedom. Freedom. I can't tell you what your road to whatever looks like. I don't know situations. I don't know circumstances. I don't know exactly what happened to you or how you've been hurt, how you've been nourished. And I can't tell you the recipe and say, this is what you need to do. I can tell you that forgiveness is worth a shot. It's worth an opportunity. And I can tell you whatever that door looks like is worth taking. Because eventually it leads to a freer you. You get to be yourself. Right? You get to be yourself. I knew at that time, as I was putting on a brave face for the world, and really, when this happened, I was 35 years old. My dad was 65 years old. He had lived a really good life. One of the questions that I'll let you guys, I'll open up for questions in a little bit, and you can ask me whatever question you want. I've been in circles that somebody's asked me the question of, what if it was your daughter that was killed? That day, we were about 10 minutes away from the Gurdwara when I had to turn back around and go get something out of the house. So it was only the forgetfulness of my daughter that kept us out of the Gurdwara at the time. Yeah. So we got there as the shooting was just happening. Phone calls are being received. They're coming out. My mom was inside. She's calling on the phone. Obviously, I did not hear from my dad. He suffered 5 shots, all from close range, all while he fought a gunman, a white supremacist gunman, with a butter knife. The butter knife was close to him. He picked it up, right? And that was, the entire incident lasted 6 minutes. 6 minutes. And it made us think, as a community, really, it made us think, this guy not only said that you don't belong in this country, but he had a sense of entitlement that said, you don't even belong on this world, on this earth. And what are you going to do about it? What is it that you're going to do about it? So after that, we try to put a brave face on for the world. We set up fundraisers fundraisers for the other 5 families, we didn't need the money necessarily as much as they did. Most of these families were first generation. The kids were young. The only breadwinner of their family was dead. Right? When my mom came here, she had a 5th grade education. If it would have been her, how would she survive? How would she get a job, employment, when she spoke little to no English and she only had a 5th grade education? Right? So I buried myself in work. Grief looks different for different people. I just knew that I had to work my way out of it. So fundraisers, funeral arrangements, putting a brave face on for the world. And as you're doing this, putting this brave face on for the world, what do you think is happening internally? What do y'all think was happening internally? Think I'm getting better? No, I'm getting more frustrated. I'm becoming more disgruntled. Understanding and thinking to myself, if these people that were inside this Gurdwara, if this was a church, and I mean no ill by this, but this is a reality that was happening within my mind. If these people were white, would it have taken the police officers hours to get inside? Or would our people have been more of a priority? If the shooter was different colors, what would the response by the community be? All of these internal struggles, right? They make you question your worth. So sometimes when we're looking at somebody and they're saying, this is how I feel, believe them. If somebody says, this is my experience, believe them. All right? Sometimes you can't articulate a feeling of not feeling like you're worth enough. It's hard to intellectualize because somebody's like, well, just, you know what we want to do? We want to say, it's okay, feel like this. We want to make it better. Right? But at the time, feeling like you weren't worth enough was the feeling that I felt. And I said, no, I'm not going to have it where my community or any community going forward is going to ever feel like they're not worth enough. I'm not going to have it where a child is in front of me and can leave out the room and say, I still feel like I wasn't worth enough. So I'm telling you, like, no matter what has happened to you in your life, you are special, you are valuable, you are unique, and you are not an accident. You're not the culmination of what has happened to you. There's people who are damaged, right? And we'll talk about this, but there's a lot of people that are hurt, and those hurt people hurt other people. Sometimes they hurt themselves, right? But you're not a product of all that. It is your responsibility to heal. That's not up to them. It's your responsibility to forgive. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, right? It means that you're vengeful. Vengeful in reclaiming your power, your life, whatever that looks like, and taking that journey. The person that taught me about that journey was a very unlikely person, and hopefully he gets here soon so I can shut up talking. But it's the people that you don't think are going to teach you about yourself are the ones that teach you the most about you. And this is, as Carla spoke about it, we surround ourselves with the ecosystem of a firm, like yes people. We surround ourselves by yes people. And we don't consciously do this, but sometimes the algorithm of life just puts you in situations where you surround yourself by people who agree with you. I consciously go out of my way to surround myself by people that don't agree with me. Agreeing is good, right? It's not that it's a bad thing, but that's not where true learning happens. We ask a Sikh, what does Sikh mean? Sikh means a learner. That's what it's always meant, a learner, a person who is on a continuous path of learning, of trying to get closer to the truth, which is oneness. Oneness with a society, but you can't become one with a society unless you become one with yourself, first and foremost. And that's a constant learning. So surrounding ourselves by yes people. And, and I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that if you can, challenge yourself spiritually. Put it like this. Here's safe spaces right here. This is safe. It's fine to be in safe spaces. It's good. We should nourish ourselves in safe spaces. Safe spaces are relative. They're subjective, meaning that for some people, they're just different. Here is scary spaces, right? Scary spaces for some people are everywhere, depending on your experience in life, right? So they're different for different people. We got to understand that first and foremost. Then right in the middle of that is a sacred space. And the sacred space is typically where learning happens, right? But somebody can't learn when they're overwhelmed. So oftentimes it takes you coming out to that space and saying, oh, okay, I've been here long enough. I need to retreat to my friends and my safe space. Oh, I've been here long enough. I need to, and over time, the world just becomes less of a scary space. And I'm not saying that, I'm not minimizing somebody and saying, well, okay, you know what, you can't, this exists, or this doesn't exist. It's different for different people. We don't know each other's experiences. We don't know just by seeing you what you've been through. There's probably going to be somebody in here tonight that, if you need to contact, you can either Facebook message or, my email is pardeepk@interfaithconference.org. But somebody in here right now is going through something unimaginable. And you might not hear about it because they won't be the ones that ask a question. But we got to lovingly challenge ourselves and create a society that it's okay to be wrong. Over the years, and now me and Arnold have been working together for about 7.5 years. There's been lots of, and Masood will attest to this, lots of ups, lots of downs. We don't necessarily agree all the time. People are like, well, you guys, we talk amongst one another. We have confrontations. With that said, I learned just as much about him as I do myself. That day taught us a lot of different things. And I can tell you one of the most important lessons that day taught us as a small minority religious community was that people show up. When that was happening, people didn't know where the Gurdwara was. Lots of people didn't know who Sikhs were. Oftentimes they confused Sikhs and said, okay, well, we don't know exactly what you believe in. Today we're on the celebration of celebrating 550 years. And there's a lot of people who are recognizing and understanding. That day, people had a couple choices. When they got out of their Sunday service, they could have either gone home, they could have went to go watch the Packer game, they could have just, whatever they existed in that made them comfortable. But there was a lot of people that day that said, no, I'm going to stop at this place that I'm unfamiliar with, that I don't really know. I don't even know the language that they speak. I don't know how I'm going to say hi or I'm sorry or, I'm not going to let this happen. And a lot of people did that day. Because human suffering, it brings out sometimes, obviously it resonates with the worst of who we are, but the worst of who we are sometimes on the flip side helps us recognize the best of who we are. This is a tough time. These are tough politics. People are going through it right now. But when this happened in 2012, we were calling ourselves a post-racial society. Guess what? We're not. We got a lot of work to do. And so I thank you for being here tonight. People didn't just show up that day, but they continue to show up even now. Those 6 people, I will tell you from stories that I heard across the street, about children that were inside the Gurdwara at the time, that saw their father killed, that saw their mother killed, right? The young children across the street got to talk to them and ask them, what did they see? What were the last words that were said? And I will tell you, each and every one of those 6 people, when they passed praying. They said a prayer call, and we say Vaheguru. We all pray in our different ways. Yeah? But they said this prayer, Vaheguru. And when they all passed, I felt a sense of relief to say, at least they died in the place, in a holy place, saying the words that they should have said. And I was at peace with that. Then I thought about the journey, and the journey of immigrants, the journey of us all, and to think about whenever you have lost somebody in your life, I'm sure their last word was probably a prayer. I'm sure you just know when that light is leaving. You just know, and you say this prayer. And that is the most purposeful prayer you will ever say. Right? We say pain without purpose is pointless. But purpose derived from pain is the most powerful. That last prayer is the most powerful. Right? And I was at peace because I knew that they prayed for themselves. But then I thought about the journey of immigrants. And I think about the journey of us all. And I think about how you are a continuation. And really, you're a continuation. That prayer wasn't for self. Like my father, other people don't do things necessarily for self. They do it because there's a legacy and a continuation of energy. You are here because you are, and you might have said, well, my teacher made me come. We came because, our function, and we heard Arnold was a great speaker. We were really just enthralled with a lot of his tattoos and things like that. That's fine. That's fine. You came for all those reasons, sure. But when you leave with a sense of responsibility. Right? You're going to take that door. And I'm going to be relieved because now I have 100 ambassadors who are a continuation of those dying prayers. So I thank you. God bless. I'm going to open it up for questions. Whatever you really want to ask, whatever's on your hearts or minds, whatever. It's open.
Thank you so much, Pardeep.